Fear paralyses. It cuts us off. It's the first day of the week, but it feels like the blackest day ever. And the disciples, bewildered, are wrung out with grief. This was the time when Jesus said that darkness would reign. It's as if all hope is extinguished. The disciples had seen their beloved Lord Jesus taken down from the cross, his rapidly cooling body, devoid of life, hurriedly wrapped in a burial cloth. And even that haste was unseemly, as they didn't want to be contaminated at the time of Passover. Recently I had a black day. My mother, who was ill in hospital, had to have a major operation that involved amputating her leg, and we were told that she would have a 50-50 chance of surviving. And although she survived that procedure, a few weeks later she passed away. And I was reminded of the words of the poet Louise Gluck, who wrote in her poem October that you will not be spared, nor will those you love be spared. And that's how it is with grief for all of us. We're not spared, but the worst of it is that those we love are not spared. We all have black days. Think about yours. It probably involves loss of a loved one, loss of a relationship, maybe loss of faith or loss of reputation, loss of a job, or losing your home. The earliest manuscripts of the Gospel of Mark, itself the earliest Gospel, end with these words: they said nothing to anyone because they were afraid. Was that it? If so, then it's as if Jesus hadn't risen from the dead. Think about that. If Jesus is still dead, then that really is the blackest day. But if in fact he did rise again from the dead, then it's not black, but dazzling light that fills all of God's creation. And when Jesus rose from the dead, it was as if that power of life, that force that comes from the resurrection, is so powerful that it still works today, even 2,000 years later. The thing is, I can't undo my blackest day, much as I'd want to. But the blackest day, when the Prince of Life died, is totally eclipsed by the brightest day, Resurrection Day. "50 days after the resurrection, when Peter was speaking to the crowd in Jerusalem, it was as if this was the main thing he wanted to explain to them, this transformation from death to life. He said, Jesus of Nazareth, a man accredited to you by miracles, signs and wonders, he was handed over to you by God's set purpose and foreknowledge. You, with the help of wicked men, put him to death by nailing him to the cross. But God," and I love that "but God" because it explains that it's all God's initiative, "but God freed him, raised him from the dead, freeing him from the agony of death, because it was impossible for death to keep its hold on him." Imagine the cold, hard fingers of death entwined round the body of Jesus. It was as if death, that holds all it has, had its greatest prize, the Prince of Life. But because Jesus was raised from the dead, then that power of life that coursed through him shattered that grip. And so now it's not death that has dominion, but life. That power of life that Jesus offers has broken through. The resurrection of Jesus makes it possible for all our blackest days to be overwhelmed by the power of his life. So we rejoice, we fill up on his hope, stand in his victory, sustained by his grace. Jewish prayer for the dead, the Kaddish, said at funerals, has this response from mourners, which is similar to the verses from the 2nd chapter, the book of Daniel. Praise be to the name of God forever and ever. Wisdom and power are his. He changes times and seasons. He sets up kings and deposes them. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what lies in darkness, and light dwells with him. May you know your darkness transformed by his light.